Hello, good to see you again on the Peace, Knowledge, and Wisdom YouTube channel. Glad you're with us today. We have another fantastic show. As always, I just want to let you know that the purpose of our discussion is to uplift ideas, information, and viewpoints that promote peace, knowledge, and wisdom. The guests on our shows are free to state their viewpoints. However, they are not necessarily the viewpoints of myself, nor the Peace, Knowledge, and Wisdom channel. We want you to hit that share button so you can share it with all your friends and family. We also want you to hit that subscribe button. We want to make sure you're part of this family as we get this information out to our community. You want to hit the like button so that we know that you like the content that we're providing for you. And then last but not least, hit the bell. That bell is going to make you get all the notifications as soon as we upload these fantastic shows. Hit all when that drop down box comes when you hit the bell button so that you get all the shows and you're notified of them. So now buckle up. Here's a great show in store for you. Peace. Obviously, you guys may know this guy is a person that is dear to me, to my heart, and disclosure is he's one of my best friends, so I won't treat him too easy. I will give him some hardball questions, but I admire him. He's almost like a mentor to me as it relates to his field, which is civil rights and politics. And so, again, I'm just happy to have him. His name is Royal Mayo. Mr. Mayo, good to see you.
Thank you, brother.
What's going on? How you doing?
All right.
Have a seat right here. So I guess some of you that do know Mr. Mayo know we're going to have a real exciting conversation here. And again, those of you who've seen my first video, we're always going to keep this to the point where we recognize that everyone has an opinion and that the black community is not monolithic. Nobody speaks for the entire black community. However, there are some in our black community who have lived and had experiences and who have fought to have the right to have, let's say, an extended opinion, and one that to me would be noteworthy and can go challenged, but only by somebody that's worthy and has what they call the receipts to challenge it. So you'll hear me say some things or ask him some questions as if I may think that he's the final decision maker on the topic. No, that's not the case. It's just I respect where he's been and where he comes from, and I know he's knowledgeable on a lot of the facts. So, Mr. Mayo, how's everything going?
Everything's
Happy
great.
New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year, you too.
How are we going to start this conversation? I want to talk about a little bit of just knowing that you're a lifelong person, lifelong resident of Steubenville. I want to talk a little bit about your history in Steubenville and get you to comment on some of the things, the culture of Steubenville, some of the things you've seen as a kid and as you've grown into an adult and then a father and into manhood and into the realm of civil rights and then into politics, because you have a lot that you can bring to us. To me, as I've sold a lot of people in the city of Steubenville, there's nobody I would rather have with me fighting than you. A description would be, I'd rather have a pit bull than a poodle. I'd rather have, somebody with me that I know is a fighter, and that's how I describe you. So let's start off by saying, what is your beginnings? What is your humble beginnings here in Steubenville?
Well, thank you. Of course, born and raised. I want to make one correction.
Yeah.
Michael said one of my best friends, but I consider Michael one of my 6 brothers.
Okay.
I have 2 biological brothers, and I have 4 brothers, and Michael's one of them. Love him just like a biological brother, so that's the one thing I like to change.
Yeah.
Michael's my brother, his kids are my niece and nephew, and nothing but love.
Yeah, and then correct. Then point taken, and that's what I meant to say about him. So we're good. Go ahead.
All right. Well, born and raised in Steubenville all my life. Went to Garfield Elementary School. From there, went to Grant Junior High, then the Big Red. And growing up, I really didn't know and understand racism the way I do now. And I think that was from a perspective is because as a kid, you don't really want nothing or ask for nothing that's really race related, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I mean, you see little things as a kid coming up, but it really doesn't affect you as much. And then when you become an adult and I start looking at things and I start being able to figure some things out, and like I said, the most important thing I learned in college was how to think. Mm-hmm. Then you start thinking differently, asking different questions, then you realize that you may become a bad guy in the eyes of the powers that be.
Exactly. Let me. I'm going to touch on some things as we go, because in knowing you for as long as I've known you, there's a lot of, I would say, things about you that the average person doesn't know, and if they did know, they would be able to take you a lot differently. So I'm gonna ask some questions that may sound crazy, but they're all going to point to some things. But as a kid, you said that you never really experienced racism like you know it now.
Yes.
When you say racism, and you say you didn't really know it as you know it now, did you experience racism, say, up to your 12-year-old, being a 12-year-old? At that point, can you look back and say, oh man, this was racist?
Well, I think my main reason for first getting involved in the NAACP, actively involved in the NAACP, was lack of diversity in the hiring policies in the school system.
Right.
Now, I don't know what the numbers were when I was a kid. I have no idea. I can't remember. I never looked it up. But when I looked at it in like 98, 99, around then, we had over 2,500 kids in the school system, over which 1,000 were African American, Black Americans, whatever you want to call it. And out of our school teachers, we had 238, and we only had 13 Black teachers. And I'm thinking, man, the student body population is over 38%. The teacher population for Blacks is 5-6%. And I just didn't think that was right. I couldn't understand. And as I look back, then I started thinking, man, well, you know, I had started at Garfield, went through for 7 years. I had Mr. Mitchell for gym class, 1 period a day, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I had Lee Gillison for band, 5th and 6th grade. I had Perry Jeter for health and gym, 7th and 8th grade. I had Mrs. Broadus for language arts, 7th and 8th grade. And other than that, I never had a Black person over me in a classroom.
And then let's stop here real quick, because it's so interesting. Like I said, me and you at times have been in this situation where we're talking to someone, whether it be powers that be, the Board of Education, superintendent, other teachers, other people in the community, and we've talked about this issue. And one of the things that I know, I've seen how that because you want to see more Black teachers, it evolved into you don't like white people. It evolved to, I think you remember the one of the conversations we had with Mr. Rinaldo as the superintendent. And one of his comebacks on what we were saying was, well, I was a teacher and your sister played for me. And she was a great child and she liked me. Like the inference is because what you're saying, you're trying to accuse people of teachers of not being good teachers because they're white. And that has nothing to do with what you're saying. Why do you think people misconstrue that?
Well, I think if you're a person in a position of power, you're trying to justify why you haven't done something that you should have did.
Okay.
That's just coming, like, with not knowing what the questions are going to be. Just, I think that would be just a defense mechanism, you know, out of people who have thought about it and who have made sure that the structure stays in place. It could be economics, because these are some of the better jobs in this area, in this economically depressed area. And it's jobs for friends and family members. And that's who are going to get these jobs, because you work here, you make a decent living, you get a good retirement. And I think for others, it's just racism. Like some people don't feel Black should be in position of leadership. Like don't feel, I don't want a Black teacher over my kid in science class. I don't want a Black man being the head basketball coach. They don't want that. They're not comfortable with it, and they're not going to have it. And again, that's good that you articulated a couple angles that somebody may have, because as I said, you mentioned the teachers, you mentioned Miss Broadus, you mentioned Mr. Jeter, you mentioned Mr. Gillison, For Mr. Mitch
and Mr. Mitchell. And what's funny is my time at Grant School, coming up to all the way up to the 8th grade, I believe I might have had Mr. Mitchell. Matter of fact, I didn't have Mr. Mitchell. The only Black teacher I ever had, I didn't have any. Now, Mr. Mitchell came sometimes and taught Jim. But he wasn't my regular when I went. It was Miss Burdine, I think her name was.
I think she was in junior high. I think Mr. Mickey may have been your elementary.
Well, even in junior high, I'm talking about all the way up to junior high.
Okay.
Being at Grant School.
Okay.
The different type of thing. But I've never had Miss Broadus. I never had Miss Owens. I never had Mr. Jeter except as a football coach.
Yes.
Okay. And so the reason I say that is, if somebody would ask me who was your favorite teacher when you grew up, it would have been Miss Cornelius and Mrs. Deach. Those are my two favorite teachers. As an elementary, it probably would have been Mrs. Alexander. In junior high, it would have been Mr. Micker. All white teachers. Did I like Mr. Jeter? I loved Mr. Jeter. I loved him as a coach. I loved Mr. Mitch. Mr. Mitch was my basketball coach and freshman. I loved Mr. Gillison. He was the band coach, but I wasn't in the band. Band teacher. I wasn't in the band, but loved him. He was great. Best band director ever in Steubenville City Schools. I say that to say that I have the same feeling as you about minority teachers. It's not because we think that white teachers can't teach, that they're not good teachers, or that they were necessarily bad to us. That's not even the argument. The argument is based on statistics mainly, and the situation of, as you said, economically what teachers are as opposed to families. So economically, if there's no black teachers, that's one professional that could not be in the black households if there's no black teachers. Also, one of the things teachers are, as we talk about, they're role models. And then it says we need good role models. And black youth have been statistically said not to have as many good professional role models as white kids, simply because there's not a lot of black professionals. So then you need to change that, because we all need to be equal. So that's really where some of the things where this stems from. And it's amazing how all of a sudden when we have been in these situations discussing this, it always seems to get turned into just a black-white thing, meaning, do you like black? Do I like black? Does this person like somebody? And that's never been the actual the meat of the argument.
And another example that you were just touching on, even say Sunday school teachers, wouldn't it be better to have a person of God that's also an educator to teach that Sunday school class, because they actually know how to teach. They know how to prepare a lesson plan. They've been trained in that, and that's their profession. And oh, by the way, on Sundays from 9:30 to 11 o'clock, I teach a Sunday school class. But you need teachers to be able to filter down into that, more educated professional people to be positive role models in and out of the community, in and out of school, to actually help these kids, mold these kids to become better people.
Okay, so we got to your school, some of your school, and talk about your school time in school. You mentioned some of the black teachers that were there, that kind of formulated some of your opinions as a civil rights leader and why you fight for some of the things you fight for. Let's go to you as a athlete. Some people may not know, but I know you was a great athlete, especially in basketball and baseball, a sport. Two sports. You play basketball also, but
I stopped playing basketball after my sophomore year,
but
stopped playing football after my freshman year.
Up until then, you was at Garfield. And, But baseball, your athletic career, athletics, the civil rights battle that's going on now, with ball players being paid, black coaches in college, black coaches in professional sports, black ownership, civil rights in sports. Talk about you as an athlete growing up in Steubenville and how it related to civil rights or race, any type of racism that you may experience or not, but how that formulated your opinions of people that you played with.
I think, and this is just, again, not knowing what we're going to talk about, I think sports is one of the great things that levels the playing field, in theory.
Right.
But I only played 1 year for Post 33. I only started 1 year for Big Red. And I think there was favors that had to be done.
Right.
I think a certain amount, like when I played for Post 33, played 1 year when I was 18, didn't play when I was 17, didn't have opportunity to play when I was 16. I thought I was good enough all those years. I thought I was better than most of the guys that was on the team.
Right.
You know, but I just didn't get the opportunity. And so what happens is you realize as you look back and you see the people on the team, like, man, like he could never outplay me.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, this is to my friend Jason Jenkins, who keeps talking about the Grant Harding game.
Okay.
Instead of talking, why don't we just play the game again?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna score 10 touchdowns. I'm not gonna be tackled or my flag pulled, however y'all want to do it. So either stop talking about the game or let's just do it again. But let's just and I'll do all the scoring.
Amen. And I'll do the blocking. I'll do the blocking.
But and I look at the baseball team, like when we played for Big Red, we had 16 players on the team. Mm-hmm. We had 8 black and 8 white. Mm-hmm. And blacks played baseball a lot. Now, over the years,
talking about high school.
We had our team was half black. Mm-hmm. You know, it was right. You know, I may miss somebody, but we had 8 black, and by then you weren't even playing anymore right. by your senior year, and you were a good baseball player, and right. you should have been on that team, right. but you weeded out earlier for mm-hmm. some of the same things that, and it was just that I liked the game, and I wasn't playing any other sports. There was no way I was going to walk around the school and not do anything.
Exactly.
And I ended up going and having a good college career, right. you know, in baseball, you know, and it was like, man, I didn't get my full opportunity, and I just think that was some of the politics displayed in sports,
right? And
that's what happens.
I want to ask this question, or I want to make this comment, just because I want to make sure we tie this to your fight now. And when I say your fight, I say our fight, but your passion. Mm-hmm. And because I think a lot of times when you look back on your life, there's certain areas that kind of build up to where you are now. You said, when you say, I just didn't play, I didn't start until then, and then you make the statement, I feel I was better than them, I feel I could have played. Do you look back at now and when you say favors had to be done, are you saying that's not racism?
Oh yeah, that's what you realize. Before, you may have just thought that it was favoritism, but favoritism is rooted in race when race is the deciding factor on the favor.
Yes. Okay. And the reason I want to say that is I always want to clarify that you hear people say everything's not race. We always want to play the race card.
There's no, wait a minute. Let me dispel this.
Okay.
There's no such thing as a race card.
Exactly.
For a black person to think that something is being done to him in America because of race, and he's paranoid about that, right. It's like my son says to me, Dad, you're overprotective. I'm like, no, son, I'm just very protective.
Yes.
Overprotective is to say that it's not necessary.
Right.
Very protective is, yes, that's just what I am, exactly. Because there's a need to be.
There's a need to be. So, and that's what I did want to say. I wanted to say that because you may not have assigned it to that originally, as you look back, that's another log on the fire of your fire that burns.
Yes.
And so, and my point about that is that I have the same feelings about those things, but I wasn't a good baseball player as you. So even though, like you said, I could have been on that team, I wasn't on that team because I had that same situation. I didn't get picked for the All-Star team, and I kind of knew why. I said, okay, I ain't going to go out anyway because I don't want to feel that hurt.
Yeah.
When I know. So my point is, you said there's nothing else to do, and I really loved baseball, and you were very good at it. So therefore, you went through that stinging of what is, you look back as now racism, because what I say is that you said some favors had to be done. Some people will say, like, for instance, nepotism. They'll say it's not race. It's not about race. I'm not picking Roll because he's black. I'm not picking Roll because I want my son to play. True. But then we have to get into why it's racism. Because Royal's grandfather, your dad was deceased by then, wasn't the coach. Because if he had been the coach, that favor could have gone to me. If favoritism is okay.
Yeah.
Why? Same thing with somebody that owns a business. Black folks don't own businesses, therefore they can't choose. You talk about unions, you talk about whatever jobs, whether it's the hospital, whatever. There's no blacks that are in powerful positions to make decisions that black people could happen to get these favors done. Therefore, why are they not there? And then we start to realize because of racism.
You know what's funny? I just bumped into Frank Fiscardo.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Yes.
And talking about baseball. He was my son's coach.
Yes.
in T-ball. And he said, well, I'm not just saying, because he asked me, was my son playing? I said, well, right now, I got him on a travel team playing out of Wheeling. I don't know if he's going to play in the Steubenville League. Now, I talked to Teddy Gorman the other day. We didn't go into detail, and he asked me, and I said, well, he's on the travel team. And I was thinking about picking up extra games in Fallsby, but right now I don't know if I'm going to do that. But Frank said, well, I'm not saying this because I'm in front of you. But we all knew Royal was the best hitter in the league. And he wasn't on the All-Star team. Literally, Mac, not his coach's pitch.
Right.
But he batted 77 times and got put out 4 times.
Right.
And he didn't get picked for the All-Star team.
Yeah.
And then the year before that, he didn't play on the All-Star team. The excuse was, this has nothing to do with the league. This is just a group of guys who got a team together. And then a kid dropped out because he wanted to play football, so they called my son. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, what color pants do I need? What are the uniforms going to be? Because you supply your own pants. He said, I don't know yet. Richie hasn't given us the hats yet. Mm-hmm. So which was a lie, which means it was affiliated with the league. So then we fast forward to the next year. And he just didn't play at all on this team. And it was the first tournament. And it was the same kind of excuse. And that's what it was. It was 4 guys. Mm-hmm. They get together. And it was their kids and their kids' closer friends. Exactly. Where wasn't on the team. He's like, Dad, how come I'm on the team? Like, and Frank thought he was going to be on the team. Yeah. He said, so then he gets called to a practice. And we were having a scrimmage. And like I said, that year, he was 73 for 77. Never struck out.
Right.
And made like we played 18 games and he made 4 outs.
Right.
So there were some teams in the league that never got him out.
So basically, when you say this, again, the first thing I'm thinking of is like when you say it's 4 guys, they want to get together and they want to do that, but there's 12 guys on the team. So even if it's just their sons, there's still room. Well, not only that, in my thinking, and I'm saying my thinking as far as not thinking that this has to be anything other than what it is. We want to get a team together of the best players and go compete. I would say, yeah, it's 4 of us. Let's get 5 of us. Let's get Royal to make sure his son is going to play.
Well, so
he can be on the coach and make some decisions.
And I asked 3 or 4 times, Richie, when we going to have some meetings? I want to coach. I want to coach. I want to coach right. because I want to protect my son and make sure he gets opportunity. Right. Like I said, see, when he was playing on the team, first scrimmage game. Now, I know he out-hit everybody in the league the whole year.
Yeah.
First scrimmage game, he bats 10th.
Because clearly the best hitter hits last.
Yeah.
I
pull him off the team, and I call the other coach that had a team that was a year older. Mm-hmm. He said, well, we got our team pretty set. I don't know if he's going to be able to play shortstop. Right. I said, Coach, as long as you're fair, and he had Coach Royal before, I said, as long as you're fair, put him where he deserves to be. Mm-hmm. So first game, another kid played shortstop the first 3 innings. And I'm not going to call any other kids' names.
Right. You know,
and then the next 3 innings, Royal played shortstop because he came in to pitch. Every inning of every game for the rest of the year, Royal played shortstop.
Right.
There was no doubt because I worked with him, and we field 500 balls all winter long every day. Right. Nobody does that.
And obviously, at least in this situation, that was allowed to come through.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure we stay on, because this is more logs on that fire.
I got you.
So we get through to, you said you played college. You played baseball for West Liberty.
Yes, I played 1 year at Cleveland State.
Correct?
First year at Cleveland State.
Yes, in Cleveland State.
But,
and then you graduate, come back. You're in Steubenville. You've done different things. I know the different jobs you've had. I remember when I first came back to
the Rent Center.
You was at Rent Center and things like that. But what are some of the things? Lee, I want to fast forward to, when did you start with the NAACP?
You and I, the first time I ever got NAACP membership as an adult, friend Billy Jam, I'm standing in front of the NAACP building. I don't even know what I was doing there. And he was doing a membership drive. Okay. And I just gave him the money. He said, join the NAACP. This was maybe 91, 92.
Okay.
And then I never went to a meeting, never had nothing to do with it. And then years later, you and I, in the late 90s, were getting extremely active on issues of education.
Right.
And so at that time, we were going to board education meetings. And I think we both sat down and talked about it because we were recruited by then President Lloyd Christian.
Right.
And Lloyd came to us and said around 2000, 2001, hey, why don't you join us and fight with us?
Yes.
And my thing is, I always heard things about the NAACP locally negative. But I said, I don't want to take somebody's word for it. How can you know what an organization does if you're not willing to at least sit down and talk to them or see what it is that they do?
And let me just give some more clarity to that discussion.
Okay.
Just so, because it sets a good tone for what we have done, my little bit, and what you do and continue. There's never a situation where we act like we have all the answers or that we're the most perfect people in the world. And the reason I say that is that part of that discussion, if you remember, we basically did some signifying about those who were in the NAACP. And we might have said, whoever said, NAACP, they don't do nothing. They don't do nothing. And one of us said, well, maybe we shouldn't say that unless we join. Maybe we should join and find out. That way we ain't got to talk about it. We will know. And so I believe we had that discussion, and was one of the things, the inferences also of joining at that time to see what was going on. As you said, Lloyd had came to you already and wanted you to come in. And I believe that was because some of the things he had seen us doing or talking in these areas and things of that nature. And we won't go into that right now, but there could have been more to why he asked us inside. But
the rest is sold, but he asked us because he wanted to put a lid on what we were saying and doing. That was pretty much it. We found out that later.
Exactly. So talk about being in the NAACP of Steubenville, and talk about what I call your rise within the organization, up to the regional, up to the state, to national, region, national, because you're very active now in the national. You've been active in the region, active in all places. Give me, because I don't necessarily want to, because of time right now, I don't want you to necessarily give me a year by year blow, but just give me some highlights of where you've been and what you've done and how in your experience.
Let me say this: when we first got involved, we were having turmoil and trouble, and when we first got active, president name was a gentleman named Jim Daniel.
Yes,
he was the state president. Shortly after that, he had a job with the national, and my love and mentor, Sybil Edwards McNabb, became president. And I mean, rest her soul, she was the sweetest, dearest person I ever met. And it brings tears to my eyes. We lost her
recently,
2012, August 12th of 2012. And
2012, you mean?
Not August 12th of 2018.
Yes.
And 4 months after that, I lost my mother.
Right.
And it's just, I think about her on a daily basis. And I reached out to her, and she said, well, listen, I don't know what's going on down there, but I'll come to Steubenville.
Okay.
And I said, when I explained to her that the powers that be here weren't going to be at the meeting. And I don't know what's going to happen, but they weren't coming to the meeting.
Right.
And that's just what happened.
Yeah.
And we became friends, and she appointed me to the executive committee from the state. And eventually she came down and then had an accident going to Houston back in like 2003. In 2004, I first ran for president, and I won. With your support, we pretty much won. We won pretty convincingly. And which normally happens with NAACP, which I think is absolutely terrible, that everybody just about from the other side walked away.
Right.
Mrs. Simmons, who now heads up the local branch of
National Network.
Al Sharpton's, who she was one that stayed, and I was young and I was wild, and I kind of was pushing her away, and I wish I hadn't have done that. But we're friends now. She's a great lady, and I respect and appreciate everything she does.
Right.
But it was like you're taking possession of something. It was like, and it was like I had fought so hard, so I didn't want anybody around, and they really didn't want to be around, when that just works to the detriment of the organization. You need everybody to be involved. You need everybody to come together, and you don't have to, because everybody isn't going to agree. But my thinking has always been, okay, we'll fight in here, and then we'll go out with a united front based on what the organization stands for and the votes of the group here.
Now, that's the first time I've heard you articulate that that first step of your presidency, and how that went that way. But what's funny about that is, I'm sure now when you look back on that and what you've been through now, that's not uncommon, is it?
No, and that's what I said. It's very, very, and I'm saying NAACP's everywhere I've pretty much been.
Yeah.
I've traveled around the state. I went and oversaw an election in Cincinnati, and normally the group that loses, they leave.
You're right.
And I've been to elections up in Warren. I've been to elections up in Youngstown. I've helped reorganize out in New Philadelphia. I've been to Canton.
Now, as a leader in the NAACP and in civil rights and in this community, and me, I'm going to say as a layperson, as it relates to that, would you, if I brought this to you, would you think it had some merit? To me, that right there is what should be fixed, attempted to be fixed, in order to have some more unity and to have more members and to have more active members in the NAACP, people who are not in there, because it would show unity, meaning if you are in there for the right reasons, a loss of the top person shouldn't mean that you don't no longer have the beliefs you believe in. Now, I know.
And you know what? And that's why the United States has survived for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've had 45 presidents, and the top guy isn't the end all be all.
Until recently.
Well, that's what he thinks. He's got a reckoning. He's got a reckoning coming.
This is true, except I think he's even there because of this.
Yes.
I say that to say politics now it's only about the top guy. It's not about the guys in Congress. It's not about the guys in the Senate. It's not about the local governors. It's not about that anymore. It's about the top guy, and everybody falls under that person. And if you're not with that person, you're not in.
Well, you know what? I recently got on the Central Committee for the Democratic Party, and even in the NAACP. And see, the problem, as I see it, is people come here and get on these different committees to be served. They look at that as the easiest way to receive personal benefits for them and their families. When you become president of the NAACP, president of the United States, a congressman, a senator, chairman of the Democratic Party,
yes,
you're there to serve,
right,
not to be served.
Yes.
And if we operated on that premise, if the people came because I want to serve my fellow man, I want to make this community stronger, because the stronger the black community becomes in America, the stronger America becomes.
For sure.
So when I work, listen, I look at voting. Barack Obama's 2 presidential runs, the only 2 times in history the black turnout was the highest of any of the turnouts between Latinas, black, and white, the 3 biggest ethnic groups to vote. But here's the thing. Let's say presidential elections, you get around 50 million votes. The black community provides about 11 million votes, 12 million votes, of which the Democratic Party gets 90% of them, 87 to 95% of that black vote. We're the strongest bloc there is. Hillary Clinton got 88% of the black vote. What she is a white woman. She only got 48% of that vote.
Right.
We're the strongest bloc, bar none.
Yes.
We need to be respected and treated as that. But what we have to do is to make that bloc even stronger, because when we vote, we all vote together. We just need more of us to vote every time. Hillary Clinton lost the election on a couple things. Number one, blacks didn't turn out in Detroit.
Right.
They didn't turn out in Milwaukee. That killed her.
You're right.
That killed her. The same numbers in those 2 cities, she won those states. The turnout wasn't as great in Pennsylvania, in Florida. Like,
let me ask you a question on what you said, because what I think what you said is true, but it's not realized. I don't think the black voters vote knowing how strong their vote is. I also don't think they vote as a bloc knowingly. Therefore, the Democratic Party has figured that out. Therefore, they don't see us as a strong bloc. They see us as a given that they're going to get.
Yes.
And so, how do you feel about this thought that some people put out there that, well, the Democratic Party been voting Democratic Party for years and they ain't never done nothing for us. Why would we continue to vote for the Democratic Party? What is that?
Because let me say this. Because first of all, the news cycle needs news, and you have to have something to talk about.
Okay.
But it's been depicted as the lesser of the two evils when it's nothing further from the truth. Mm-hmm. See, if you look at the voting report cards, NAACP, through my brother Hillary Shelton, the Washington Bureau has a report card of everybody that votes on every issue. You can read the issue, you can read how people vote, and then you can decide for yourself, but the NAACP also tells you on this particular bill, this is how the NAACP think this is best for the black community. And this is how we lobby. Hillary Shelton lobbies to have people vote. There's many Democrats to get 100% on the NAACP report card. There's some Republicans to get an F every time on issues that's pertinent to the black community. So my thing is, I talk to one of my other brothers, Sean Livingston, all the time. And he listens to a lot of the media. And I tell him all the time, listen, Sean, I want you to read the report cards. And I don't want to hear the rhetoric and the talk. Let's see where the rubber meets the road.
Exactly.
Let's see how these politicians vote on the issues that affect black people.
And let me just say this to say more, because I've seen this from the pundits, the talking heads, those usually people who have a sometimes Pan-Africanism type belief. And what I mean is strong black.
Dr. Umar.
Dr. Umar is a perfect example of one. I can say his name because he loves getting, I don't want to put too many names out there, but Dr. Umar is one that I'll say. He has said things like this, matter of fact. He has said, the Democratic Party been voting them for years. They are just as racist as the Republican Party. They haven't done anything for us for years, which I don't disagree with. What I disagree is when he goes as far as to say, why vote for the Democratic Party? Because he never comes back and says, since we know this is a two-party system, he never comes back and said, we should have voted for this Republican because he would have did this for us. We should vote Republican because Republicans do this. Never says that, meaning there is no other choice that you have. You're just bashing the choice we've made.
Yes.
And my point is, I know he's smart enough to know what he's doing. He just wants to come out, like you say, and have something that's said that makes sense, but he doesn't finish.
But let me say this, though.
Now, I know where he's going with it, because he is saying don't vote at all, because he says I only vote for people who have a platform or a policy on 5 of the things that ail the black community. This is gentrification, miseducation, access to wealth, mass incarceration, and one more that gets by me right now. I'll think of it. In those, which they're big things that ail the black
possibly
community.
inadequate health care, because that's
no, it wasn't
big on
inadequate
that.
health care. I'll get that in a second.
Food deserts.
No, it wasn't food deserts. Gentrification, miseducation, access to wealth, mass incarceration. Oh, and police genocide.
Okay.
But my point is there's nobody in the Republican Party that meets any of them agendas ever that I've ever heard of.
Don't even discuss it.
Nowhere
near their platform.
So therefore, if you're telling me that I shouldn't vote for the Democrat, if there's only 2 people to vote for, you're either telling me one of 2 things: not to vote, or vote for the Republican.
Or let me say this. I think another thing that he could be doing, and I think he's smart enough to do this, and I think what he's doing is, I think by saying that, I think he's lighting the fire under the Democrats to start doing some of this, as to we don't need somebody like Umar Johnson turning our voters away from us, because that is our base. That is our block, and they're loyal to us. So we need to start doing some of these things before our constituents start saying, you need to do this thing. So we'll nip it in the bud. We'll do it before they bring it up, because he's already saying it.
Let me interrupt you. I just want to let all the people that's going to view this and that are viewing this know this is going to be a 4-part series. And I knew I would need a 4-part series to talk with this gentleman, because he enlightens me, enlightens us. He's going to give us some takes that we may disagree with or agree with. But I want to finish this off and go here. And when we pick up, we'll get back where we should have went to get to you to now where you're at and some of the things going on in NAACP right now. But this is key because what you said. I want to ask this question to you. Take about 5 minutes, take about 2 minutes to give me your answer, and then we're going to wrap it up by doing something that I do want to do at the end of all discussions. But why does it seem like, why has it been, and I use these words loosely when I say, why have we not been smart enough? Because I don't want to be like I'm confusing everybody that I'm smarter than them. But when you take, and we've had this discussion before, I want you to just try to give it to me in a way that is palatable for everyone. And to, you know, how do we as black people have Booker T. Washington and W.B. Du Bois, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King? In some respects, at a point in time, Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. How do we have a situation where we have Colin Kaepernick and now it's on the other side, Jay-Z? Because all of them people at those times had followers, and we have taken it to some respects kind of like our democracy, that there can only be Democrat and Republican, so you have to be for or against. How are we not smart enough to continue to have these things and have that divide us, that we can't get in the room like what you said you think Dr. Umar is doing? I think it's definitely possible that's exactly what he's doing, but he can't call up Barack Obama. He can't call up Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton can't call up Barack Obama, or Marcus Garvey couldn't have called up Malcolm X, and Malcolm X called, who was the guy in the SNCC that led SNCC before that they, not Lowry, but I can't remember back then. But anyway, some of the leaders get together and get in the room and say, hey, Umar's saying this, he's saying that, he's trying to get these guys to get a light a fire. See, Umar has to do it that way to get attention, because he doesn't have access to.
Well, let me tell you what I think. I think sort of like when who was a brother Barack Obama went to his church?
Wright, Reverend Wright,
Reverend Jeremiah Wright. If Barack Obama, the racism is still so thick in America.
Mm-hmm.
If Barack Obama even takes a call from Umar Johnson, he'll be ostracized.
What about now?
He isn't in power now.
But is his voice strong, powerful? Would we be listened to?
Let me say this.
Could he get a national forum?
Let me say this. He can get a national forum, but I think if he takes a national forum, he'll start to be marginalized. Like, see, when he became president of the United States with a country that's 13% black. So he wasn't the president of Black America.
Right.
He's president of the United States of America. So Barack Obama's platform is bigger than, like, he would have to take a step back to just take a platform. Barack Obama commands the entire United States platform.
I understand.
Jesse Jackson gets the Black America platform.
But he did something to the black vote that nobody else had done, correct?
Well,
as far as the percentage of increasing
well, let me say this. As a matter of pride, black folks went and voted for the first black president.
Exactly.
But he only got a couple percentage points more than some Democrats. Like, it was still 5% blacks voted for
Bush.
McCain.
McCain, that's right.
McCain and what was the other guy's name? Romney.
Right.
So still 5, and then I think the next one was even 7%. So he got like 95 and then like 93%. There's been white Democrats that's gotten that same range. So my point is, it's just that more blacks voted.
Well, let me just say this. When I say Barack Obama signifies he would be the for the uppity Negro, for the black who's doing well, and he really don't want to be bothered with all that politics, or he's not you've been in an NAACP meeting where people say, I ain't going down there for all that fighting and arguing and stuff. Black issues being talked about and fought about, and you black, you should be involved in that too.
Well, it's funny. I remember Al Sharpton saying a lady told him, good luck with your struggle. He said, when they free you and keep me.
Exactly. But my point is, as I've always told you, we need all of us.
Yeah.
At the point we fight, because you fighting for them too.
Yeah.
You fighting for that
well,
lady,
a lot of
just
people,
like...
And I just told somebody this recently because they told me they didn't believe in that kind of stuff. I said, yeah, but you're reaping the benefits of my work.
Exactly.
Like
right.
you don't believe in it, but there's been, like, I'm standing on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly.
Like I walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge on August 1st of 2015. And when that was done a couple generations before, they were trying to kill people for walking across that bridge. That's just the first step. You leaving Selma on your way to Montgomery, we gonna beat you now.
And you're not representing and you fighting for people who say, "Oh, nigga, all you did was walk across that bridge."
Yeah.
That is a bridge.
Yeah.
And that's truly what they feel. That's truly all they know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say that to say, still they need to be represented. So no matter who Barack Obama represents, no matter who Umar Johnson represents, what they need is for them to agree to get everybody's agenda moved forward, which should still be everybody wants equal treatment. Everybody doesn't want everybody. Nobody wants to be oppressed.
Well, you know what the problem is. Here's in theory.
Okay.
In theory, if I could possibly become the greatest NAACP leader, I would work my way out of a job, because my thing is, if the NAACP did its vision and mission and eliminated racism, my thing is, my goal is for the NAACP to end all the racial discrimination and then have one thing and one thing only. We're going to mobilize the vote every year to make sure it stays gone. That's my goal.
Right.
Eliminate it. Eliminate anybody thinking about discrimination. And because you can't stop a fool. So one person can do anything.
True.
But what you can do is set the standard for when you do this. Like when you see a cop that violates somebody's rights, like the lady who knocked on the man's door. I mean, shot him and killed him and got 10 years and hugged and given a Bible by the black judge.
Sure.
Listen, let me tell you something. She should have been treated worse than any normal criminal who knocked on somebody's door and shot and killed him. Example should have been made out of that bigot, out of that racist, because she murdered a man for no reason. Yes. So my point is, some mistakes you make, you pay for with the rest of your life, and that's what she should have did. So my point is, you can't stop somebody from doing something, but the punishment needs to be so harsh that they never do it again.
And this is true, and that's supposed to be, as Tavis Smiley, I think, said, that we only want America as great as its promise. And the greatness of America is supposed to be that. You're not, I know it's what it said. The NAACP cannot do anything to get rid of racism. What their job is really to make sure is that racism that's done is justice, meaning it's paid for. There's a punishment for it. Meaning the Constitution says we should all be treated equal. You're allowed to be racist. You just can't be an authority and not treat me fairly.
You know, it's funny.
The reason I say that is simply because how do I know if you're racist or not? And how can I stop making you racist? I believe you can't stop making somebody racist, but what they can do is if you do something in a position of power that's racist, that's against the Constitution and the law, we can help fight to make sure justice comes to you.
I'm kind of outspoken, so I'm at the national board meeting, and I'm talking about, I'm with the biggest, heaviest hitters in the NAACP, the lawyers, I mean the big wigs, right. And I'm just in the meeting, I'm just chilling, and I'm just sitting and listening, and they're talking, and somebody in there talks about something pertaining to race, and I just stood up and said, "Hey, wait a minute, hold on." I said, "Barack Obama don't make the decisions from the bench in Steubenville, Ohio." So Barack Obama ain't hiring and firing in Steubenville, Ohio. So you got some white folks that's in power that says you got your black president, but I'm making the decisions here.
Exactly.
So yeah, I got to eat that crow, but I ain't hiring your black behind.
Exactly.
So you know, and that's just a fact. So you can have a black president, and that don't stop a racist who doing the hiring and firing at a store in Steubenville, Ohio, or from doing whatever he want to do.
And what the NAACP's mission has been, and they've been so great in doing this over the years, is when that person decides to do that, they bring that to attention of America. They bring that to the attention of the consciousness of America, and then they try America's consciousness by their promise, which is the law. And when that law comes, you hope that what's sitting up on that bench is someone else who's fair and agrees with what they say put their hand on the Bible and said they would uphold. If they agree with that, then justice can be served.
And this is the first time I've articulated this. As I watch what's going on with Donald Trump,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like our highest elected officials on both sides are acting like it's mob rule. And what I mean by that is they want to see what the public thinks about what Donald Trump does before they decide what they want to do. So, in other words, if I go back home to Kentucky, Mitch McConnell,
Mm-hmm.
and my people says they want Donald Trump, then it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if the people say 90% of them start saying, hey, he got to go, then I'm going to vote to impeach him.
Mm-hmm.
My point is this. It's not mob rule, it's rule of law.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be the most popular person in the world. Donald Trump said it when he's campaigning. I could shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and my people wouldn't do nothing. That's not how the law works. If you break the law, then you're held to a certain standard no matter who you are. And because it's not mob rule, then the people we send to Washington, the people who sit on a bench, the people who prosecute cases need to sit down, look at the law, look at the infraction, and then make a decision based on that. And it doesn't matter what the mob thinks. It doesn't matter that 30 million people who support Trump think he's a descendant of King David and God sent him. Get out of here with that.
And I agree, and I think we are understanding, or at least seeing the trying of that, because it's always been said that the president has the bully pulpit. What they found out is they finally found somebody to put somebody in there that's willing to see how much bully is in that pulpit. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people being bullied. That's up there in the Capitol and even the Supreme Court. A lot of them guys is just bullied by him. And so anyway, we're going to end there. Great discussion. We're going to need to continue this. Obviously, we haven't finished this. There's going to be a 4-part series. And so we're going to do this again, 4 parts. And when we put this out, it will come consecutively so that we can pick this conversation up where we left off here and let it go even broader. Again, it's been great having you. Appreciate you.
All right, bro.
We're going to do this again. Those of you, again, like I've said in the very first and at the beginning, always hit the subscribe button, hit the like button or the dislike button, but also hit the notification. So anytime we post these, you'll start to see them. Again, this is the beginning of Peace, Knowledge, and Wisdom. And these interviews will get a little better. They'll be a little more substantive. And we're going to get into a lot of issues in the Black community and talk about the Black experience in America. So peace.